or millennia, humanity has stood beneath the same canopy of stars, driven by a singular, unyielding question: how does the universe work? From the cradle of early civilization to the sterile corridors of modern laboratories, our desire to decode reality has remained unchanged. What has changed, however, is our method. For over 1,000 years, the prevailing map of the cosmos was a masterpiece of philosophical comfort. Championed by Ptolemy and Aristotle, the ancient model placed an unmoving Earth at the absolute center of creation. The sun, the moon, and the planets were believed to be embedded in perfect crystalline spheres, rotating in flawless celestial harmony. It was an intuitive geometry, one that aligned perfectly with human perception and early religious dogma. The universe was small, purposeful, and built entirely for us. But observational anomalies began to fracture this perfect geometry. Wanderers in the night sky, the planets, often appeared to move backward. To fix these discrepancies, the ancients invented increasingly complex mathematical workarounds, refusing to abandon the idea of Earth's centrality. The turning point arrived in the 16th and 17th centuries. When Galileo turned a primitive optic tube toward the heavens, he did not find smooth, perfect spheres. He saw jagged mountains on the moon and moons orbiting Jupiter. The heavens were not perfect, they were physical. The final blow to ancient cosmology was dealt by mathematics. Figures like Copernicus and Kepler proved that celestial bodies did not move in perfect circles, but in elliptical orbits. The comforting spheres were shattered, replaced by the invisible, unyielding laws of gravity and motion. The universe was suddenly recognized as a mechanical system, indifferent to human philosophy. Today, modern astrophysics has pushed our horizon out to the very edge of time itself. We have traded the ancient enclosed dome of stars for an expanding void governed by general relativity and quantum mechanics. The modern universe is unimaginably vast, cold, and ancient. Yet, through the lens of modern science, it possesses a structural beauty far more intricate than the ancients could have ever dreamed. Long before we understood the atom, the ancients sought to master the material world through the art of alchemy. Spanning from Hellenistic Egypt to the medieval Islamic world and Europe, alchemy was not merely a primitive science, it was a deeply spiritual pursuit. It operated on the belief that all matter was composed of fundamental, almost sacred principles: earth, water, air, and fire. The ultimate goal was transmutation, purifying base metals like lead into noble gold, a process that mirrored the purification of the human soul. But the alchemical dream was shrouded in secrecy and symbolism, lacking a universal standard of proof. The pivot toward modern chemistry began with a radical new obsession: exact measurement. In the 17th and 18th centuries, pioneers began to weigh matter meticulously before and after reactions. They discovered that fire was not an element, and air was not a single substance. The ancient paradigm collapsed as scientists realized the physical world was built from a distinct set of unchanging building blocks. This realization culminated in one of the greatest analytical triumphs in human history: the periodic table. By organizing elements by their atomic weight and properties, science replaced the mystical recipes of the alchemists with a predictable mathematical grid. The universe was no longer governed by hidden spiritual forces, but by protons, neutrons, and electrons. The structure of matter had been demystified, subjected to the unyielding laws of thermodynamics and quantum mechanics. Yet, the story ends with a profound irony. The ancient alchemists were ultimately right about one thing: transmutation is possible. Today, inside the gleaming subterranean rings of particle accelerators and the cores of nuclear reactors, modern science routinely transforms one element into another. We can indeed turn lead into gold, But the mechanism is not magic, it is nuclear physics.
But the alchemical dream was shrouded in secrecy and symbolism, lacking a universal standard of proof. The pivot toward modern chemistry began with a radical new obsession: exact measurement. In the 17th and 18th centuries, pioneers began to weigh matter meticulously before and after reactions. They discovered that fire was not an element and air was not a single substance. The ancient paradigm collapsed as scientists realized the physical world was built from a distinct set of unchanging building blocks. This realization culminated in one of the greatest analytical triumphs in human history: the periodic table. By organizing elements by their atomic weight and properties, science replaced the mystical recipes of the alchemists with a predictable mathematical grid. The universe was no longer governed by hidden spiritual forces, but by protons, neutrons, and electrons. The structure of matter had been demystified, subjected to the unyielding laws of thermodynamics and quantum mechanics. Yet, the story ends with a profound irony. The ancient alchemists were ultimately right about one thing: transmutation is possible. Today, inside the gleaming, subterranean rings of particle accelerators and the cores of nuclear reactors, modern science routinely transforms one element into another. We can indeed turn lead into gold. But the mechanism is not magic, it is nuclear physics. For thousands of years, ancient medicine viewed the human body not as a machine, but as an ecosystem. Whether it was the four humas of ancient Greece, the energetic pathways of traditional Chinese medicine, or the elemental balances of Ayurveda, illness was understood as a disruption of harmony. The ancient physician treated the whole patient: their diet, their environment, and their spirit. Healing was an art of restoring balance, fundamentally intertwined with philosophy and religion. To the ancients, the body and the soul were inseparable. This holistic view was completely upended by the invention of the microscope. When humanity first peered through ground glass lenses, an invisible, terrifying universe was revealed. The conceptual shift was brutal and absolute. Disease was not a spiritual imbalance, it was a biological invasion. The advent of germ theory in the 19th century stripped medicine of its mysticism. Cholera, plague, and tuberculosis were no longer the wrath of the gods or corrupted air. They were bacteria, living organisms that could be isolated, categorized, and destroyed. Modern medicine accelerated into an era of extreme reductionism. We began to treat the human body as a complex biological machine. Today, we do not just fight microbes, we edit the very source code of life. With technologies like CRISPR, we can slice into the DNA double helix, snip away genetic diseases before a child is even born. Robotic appendages perform surgeries with microscopic precision that no human hand could ever match. We have mastered the mechanics of life. Yet, as our microscopes peer ever deeper, modern science is circling back to an ancient truth. We are discovering the microbiome, trillions of bacteria in our gut that dictate our mood and immunity. Neuroscience is proving the profound physical impact of stress and meditation, mapping the undeniable link between the mind and the body. We have realized that while the mechanical precision of modern medicine is miraculous, the ancient intuition was not entirely wrong. The human body is indeed a deeply interconnected ecosystem. The transition from ancient wisdom to modern science was not a peaceful relay race. It was a revolution. Ancient cosmology and biology were not merely academic theories. They were the foundational pillars of societal order. The belief in an earth-centered universe, guided by divine hands, gave monarchs their divine right and institutions their absolute authority. To challenge the architecture of the cosmos was to challenge the ruling powers of the earth. Science, by its very nature, became deeply dangerous. When empirical data contradicted sacred texts, the reaction was severe. The 16th and 17th centuries became a battleground of ideas. Thinkers like Giordano Bruno were burned at the stake for proposing that the universe was infinite and filled with other suns. Galileo Galilei, perhaps the most famous casualty of this intellectual war, was dragged before the Roman Inquisition. Forced under the threat of torture to recant his telescopic observations, he spent his final years under house arrest. The ancient establishment fought to protect its absolute truth by outlawing the data. But a profound shift had occurred: the mechanization of knowledge. The printing press ensured that once a mathematical proof or a biological diagram was published, it could not be contained by burning a single manuscript or silencing a single astronomer. Evidence is entirely indifferent to authority. It does not care about the decrees of emperors or the edicts of the church.
The telescope could not be uninvented, and the mathematical laws of planetary motion could not be uncalculated. This conflict forged the ultimate difference between ancient dogma and modern science. Ancient systems were static, demanding unquestioning faith in the wisdom of the past. Modern science, however, is a self-correcting engine. It is a system that actively rewards the destruction of its own established theories. In the realm of science, to prove the previous generation wrong is not a heresy, it is the highest form of progress. We have spent centuries dismantling the temples of ancient thought. We traded the gods of the wind for the laws of meteorology, the alchemy of the soul for the physics of the atom, and the comforting center of the universe for a cold, expanding void. It is easy, looking through the lens of modernity, to dismiss the ancients as primitive. But to do so is to fundamentally misunderstand the history of human intellect. Modern science did not emerge in a vacuum. It was born directly from the ancient desire to find order in the chaos. The Babylonian priest tracking the stars on a clay tablet, and the astrophysicist analyzing data from the James Webb Space Telescope are separated by millennia, but they are driven by the exact same instinct. We still stand in awe of the universe. We just have better tools to measure it. The conflict between ancient dogma and modern science was ultimately a necessary crucible. It burned away the myth, but it left the wonder intact. As we push our understanding to the very edges of space, time, and biology, we are still simply doing what our ancestors did, looking up into the dark and trying to understand our place within it.
We explore the blueprints of these forgotten marvels every single week. If you want to keep rediscovering the genius our ancestors left behind, then subscribe to Ancient Archive Blueprints and join us on the journey. Stay curious.